I'm Don Haddad, and welcome to another showing of Education Today. Glad you could join us, and I'm also very glad that our special guest could join us as well. So we have Jamie Schneider, outstanding teacher at Westview Middle School, and Michael O'Toole, the St. Vrain Valley School District Science Coordinator. And how are you guys doing?
We're great. Thank you for having us.
Doing well?
Well,
thanks a lot for being here. You know, Michael, why don't you start out and just tell us briefly a little bit about your professional background, and then Jamie, we'll ask you the same question.
I was a high school educator for 12 years and really enjoyed working in the classroom, but then had the opportunity to go work for NASA as a curriculum developer, NASA, National Geographic. So I really enjoyed that, but I sort of missed the students. And so it really brought me back to here in St. Vrain when this opportunity presented itself to work alongside some pretty talented teachers and educators and work closer with students.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job leading and managing quite a large group of people. So, and Jamie?
My interest started early, actually in middle school. That's why I have such an interest in being a middle school teacher. I knew I liked earthquakes and volcanoes, and in high school I had the opportunity to be kind of an outdoor education counselor for students, and I just loved that connection. I kept it through my undergrad and graduate studies, but I was more of the science route. So kind of traveled all over on volcanoes and being a field scientist, and my first job was working at Mount Rainier National Park as a geological education specialist. So I take students out onto the volcano and basically lead field trips, and it was great. They was always excited to see me because I was the guest. And after that, a job moved me out to Boulder, Colorado. I worked at UNAVCO with the Plate Boundary Observatory. And I was just traveling too much. I wanted to start a family, and I still love that kid connection, so I thought being a classroom teacher would be excellent.
Well, what an exciting thing to have someone with your experience in the classroom, because you really bring that learning to life, and that's great.
Thank you very much.
And you know, one of the things that's amazing is this trip that you've been a very big part of coordinating and organizing, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I can't imagine doing that, and I know, Michael, you've climbed it several times. So tell us a little bit about how did this trip come together, and with whom had you partnered with in the past and in the present? How did all that work?
One of the exciting things, and one of the reasons I really enjoy being here at St. Vrain, is because we challenge our students. We ask them to be innovators, we ask them to dream big, and it's the same with our faculty, our teachers, and our administrators. And I had already accepted a position to lead a student research expedition for NASA's GLOBE program and Discovery Channel. And I looked at Jamie and I was like, wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to take the entire district on a virtual field experience, a virtual field trip? And I tell people all the time that I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to work with these wonderful educators, such as Jamie, a former volcanologist. And I thought she'd be the perfect tie, just a great charisma, and be able to bring this experience into the classroom and excite students about learning about nature, and more to the point, understanding and discovering a sense of place. Yeah. And when we say sense of place, it's kind of an easy thing to understand. Where is this place? What's it like there? And what changes are there? And so Kilimanjaro is a really unique experience because it's like walking from the equator to the North Pole in a matter of days. And so students can find similarities and differences between their own environment and Kilimanjaro. And Jamie really brought that home with her expertise with volcanoes.
Yeah, I just still can't even imagine being able to do that. Which one of you, were you the first one up? Did you get up to the mountain at that top before Michael?
We were all kind of in a line, and Jesse and I, Mike's fiance, was there too, and we were right there pair in pair, and I've started to feel the altitude sickness, so I was sitting down kind of holding my head from the headache, and Jessie was tired, and Mike has a great picture of her laying on the ground near there, and we just had a little walk up to the summit from there, and I think I was the first one there for the pictures at the summit, just because I was so eager to get back down so that I got rid of the headache.
Well, tell me a little bit about the climb. I mean, you just did, but I mean, from the beginning to the end, what did you experience?
Definitely, it was great. Starting off, we start off in a rainforest, which is kind of hard to believe once you see the summit pictures, how it's just volcanic scree everywhere. But we had monkeys, and if you just were quiet and just listened to what was around you, you had all these just natural noises and sounds. And eventually we went up through the moorland and the Keystone, And all of a sudden the vegetation became less and less, more sparse. We would see animals scat, not the animals anymore. And then we kind of went up into the subalpine, and then you started to really, everything was through these igneous rocks, these volcanic rocks. So we saw different lava flows that we'd hike over. We hiked across an entire caldera. Kilimanjaro is actually made up of 3 volcanoes. Okay. And so the oldest volcano had completely kind of blew out its magma chamber, and then it kind of implodes on itself and leaves a caldera. So it's a big plateau that we climbed across because there's been more current deposition on top from Kibo, which is now the youngest volcano on Kilimanjaro. And we passed lava bombs, and it was very exciting. I was hiking with the Omani students and I was showing them different minerals and different mineral orientation, and you just know so much about the lava flows and the different ages of the flows. And so we just continue to climb through these different biomes and learning about the different geology along the way, and eventually we made it to the summit.
Oh, that's exciting. You know, one of the things, as you both know, we've got a one-to-one initiative. We do a lot with technology in the St. Vrain Valley Schools, which is a good thing. But Michael, how did you use the technology? Because I know a lot of people participated virtually. And that's one of the beautiful things about an experience like this is you can bring the mountain to people who aren't actually there, but they feel like they're there.
Absolutely. No, the journey Jamie just mentioned, it seemed a lot warmer when you mentioned it. But it was actually an 8-day trip. And so we spent a full day in every biome. And we had a team of 22 with us. So we had students, teachers, and scientists. And our goal was to present this in different perspectives, once of a student, of a teacher, and of a scientist. And as we did that, we broadcast everything from the mountain. It was sort of live. We tried to get updates out every day, short video segments, those type of things, and everything's still cataloged. Discovery did a wonderful job. But what we wanted to do was challenge our students with the technology that they have at their access in their classroom to be able to explore further, to be able to see, well, how is Colorado different than the heath zone on the mountain? What are some similarities and differences, different animals, different things like that? And so that one-to-one piece was great. They could follow along each day at their own time and convenience, and then learn a little bit more about where they live.
Wow, that's great. And how many students actually participated in this from a virtual perspective?
We're pretty encouraged by the numbers. We had over 50. We had questions emailed in and through Twitter quite a bit, and we had over 57 countries that asked questions. And we believe on the virtual field experience we haven't talked about yet, the broadcast, we had a little bit over 650,000 students around the world. Wow. So it was exciting to be able to share that with our St. Vrain students, but also highlight some of the exciting things that are going on in St. Vrain.
Yeah, that's exciting. And so your students obviously were participating at some level. And
oh, yes.
How did that go? And what was their feedback when you communicated with them and when you got back? What were their comments?
It was great. Several of the comments were, I want to go, which is exactly the goal, the purpose. I want my students getting out and getting involved and exploring on their own. That's how they learn. And this was just the start to their learning experience. So my students, we started off we actually took a field trip right in our backyard to Rocky Mountain National Park. Okay. And they were able to take water samples. So following these the GLOW protocols, and so we studied the conductivity of water, pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, and that was similar to the data that we collected while we were on Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania as well. So then my students had a platform set up where they were able to have their own account where they could then communicate with other students from these other countries. So the Omani students in Tanzania have accounts, and now students in the Dominican Republic have accounts, and they're all collecting their own water samples, and we're that idea of that sense of place of where you are, and we're relating it through the hydrosphere, hydrology, to say, look where our water comes from, look at our water quality, and then we can then connect it, culturally, and it can be more cross-curriculum of these learning opportunities that we're presenting to the students.
Yeah, that's just an amazing experience that when you start to think about, I reflect back on when we were in school and the way in which a lesson would be absorbed and delivered and absorbed compared to something like this, and it makes you just wonder what's next you know? And
Oh, yes.
have you guys thought about that, and what is next?
One of the things that we're trying to do with the science department in St. Vrain now is that, and years ago, you were sort of restricted by the content knowledge of your instructor or the text that you had in front of you. Now we have sort of a window to the world, and especially if it's done responsibly, it really opens up all sorts of learning opportunities for students with the technology that we have at our fingertips. One of the things that you hear often is that the world is getting smaller and smaller every day. And Jamie's group with that was a wonderful platform that they used to be able to connect not only with students here in our own district, but in the Dominican Republic, in Oman, and Tanzania, and really share that global learning experience.
Yeah. It's amazing. I was visiting a company, one of our board members' husband, and they have these virtual glasses, like, I don't know, they have to call them 3D or whatever they're, and the opportunity to put them on, and then it simulates. In this case, I was up on a higher platform simulating, and it was so real that I actually, even though I was standing on flat ground, obviously, I didn't want to move because I felt like if I moved, it was that real. And so,
My husband loves that.
you know, and-
those glasses.
yeah, and you're just sitting there thinking, bringing those into the classroom too, to where someone could really experience something like that and feel like they're really there.
We need to get to the one where they could experience what life is like at Crater Camp. So we spent one evening at 18,400 feet, Crater Camp, and the air was such that it was so dry that you would exhale, your breath would hit the top of the tent, and it would almost snow on you inside the tent. Wow. And so when they get a computer or something that can simulate that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. And the students had an opportunity, whereas an Adobe Connect session where they could communicate directly with these students as well. So my students here in Colorado had a live talk with the students in Tanzania, and they could personally ask them, you know, what it's like when your blood oxygen level is lower, and so they could make that connection. And then we also have some pictures that we're going to talk about as well with how these students were able to collaborate. So right now is a picture of Mike, myself, and Jesse at the summit. Very proud with our St. Vrain flag. I also need to thank the Education Foundation for the St. Vrain Valley because without their generous grant, I would not have been able to go as a classroom teacher. So I want to thank them as well.
It was really rewarding, and I tell you what, I've had the opportunity to put a lot of flags on that summit between NASA and National Geographic, Discovery, those type of things. And there was a lot of pride in this one. Even though there's just 3 of us holding that flag, we really had an entire school district up there on that summit with us. So it was great.
That is true.
That's fantastic. What, there's...
Yeah, so this is our team. This is our international team. We have 22 in our group, mainly from Oman, South Africa, Ireland, India, and then the United States. So it's a great group, sponsored by the GLOBE program, which is NASA's Earth Science Education program. So that here's
This is my outdoor classroom. It's excellent. In my own classroom at Westview, I don't really have my own office where I can close a door and just get work done. I wouldn't say this is like that either, but this was definitely a lot more quiet than my Westview classroom.
This is Karanga Camp, so it's about 16,800 feet. And as you look out there, you look under a sea of clouds. And so it was interesting. And I don't know, next time we got to call an IT guy to get them out there to work on our computers, because it was great, but it was challenging when it's a little cold out and working on
It was
the computer.
excellent. And
We'll
this
get
is-
you a pair of those virtual glasses and
Right.
simulate that you've got a closed-in office.
There we go. I
And you
can
sit
simulate
there and
that
think you-
with the students all around me. But here I
Yeah.
am blogging, so I was able to do those blogs. But also, it was just so exciting when I saw my own students sending in questions. That's how I knew that they were connected to us.
See, these are the, Kilimanjaro is famous for the fact that it's on the equator, surrounded by the plains that we call the Serengeti, and it's known, one of the America's famous authors, Ernest Hemingway, talked about the snows of Kilimanjaro, and this is part of that snow. This is the northern ice field there, and these ices, the ice there, and the glaciers are diminishing, and they're disappearing. It's not necessarily it's getting warmer, but it's the fact that the ice is supplementing because those monsoon rains are not replenishing the snows like they used to.
Oh, okay.
And a glacier is a place that receives more snow than what melts. And that's no longer occurring. So it was really nice to be able to share that with the students we had there and also introduce people to that.
And it's a fascinating challenge for the students because we love them to be able to think about these very critical, sometimes controversial topics, and this is one that could relate to global climate change.
Yeah, that's great.
And so this all led us to the October 8th event, which was a live webinar event hosted by the Discovery Channel, Discovery Education. And it presented Jamie and I with a classroom to the world. She talks often about loving working with kids and being there in front of the kids, and this really gave us a platform to work with a large amount of kids. We had we believe over 500,000 students from around the world, 57 different countries, and it was great to be able to host that from Westview Middle School. These are students in the Dominican Republic, which, by the way, is another one-to-one school, the Notre Dame school there. And so they sent quite a few questions and are following along. And I think the next picture is both Jamie and I, and that was kind of nerve-wracking, but it was good.
You know, I was very honored that Discovery brought this kind of mobile studio to Westview because my students were able to, I had some other students that were able to actually come in and watch this production, and it was fascinating. It's for another class that I teach where they actually have to film scientists and make a video about them, and their comments about that was, it's so much harder than I thought, there's so much more involved, and so, I mean, the education just hasn't stopped.
That's one of the exciting things too, is we were on the mountain just 2 weeks ago. We did the virtual field trip the 8th of October, last Thursday, but all this is archived. And so teachers and students from around the world can relive this experience at any time. It's all archived. You can get there on the St. Vrain webpage, svvsd.org, or the discoveryeducation.com/Kilimanjaro. Yeah. The live events archived, all of the journal entries and biomes.
That's fantastic that people can continue to access it. That's, you know, one thing, we can't let the show end without you getting a chance to talk about Westview and all the great teachers and the students there.
Yes, thank you, because really without their support, this whole trip wouldn't have been possible. They were continuing the collaboration, the education while I was gone, which was huge. They were making sure, and this wasn't just one grade level, it was the whole school. They were following along with the blogs, and it was the Discovery blogs, also Globe has blogs. Tony Murphy was keeping up with those blogs. He was on the volcano with us. And the teachers really were great about bringing this virtual classroom, making it complete. Because while I was on the volcano, someone had to be there with the students. And I was missing the students, and it was great to know that they were in great hands. And thank you to all my coworkers for your huge support, especially with that webinar that we did for the students to interact. And thank you to all of St. Vrain for tuning in as well.
One of the things too we can't forget about Westview and some other St. Vrain schools is the education of the whole person, and that's the fact that the humanitarian efforts. We took almost 7 50-pound suitcases worth of school supplies to Tanzania with us, and we made sure that got to orphanages and orphan schools. And Westview was terrific, donating used soccer balls, shirts,
clothes,
those type of things.
dental hygiene, first aid. But even my students helped me pack the suitcases that we brought over because we had to limit it to 50 pounds and we just had so much. And they were just so enthusiastic the whole time. And they got to sign their own names on the soccer balls for some of the students. It was their first time having to write their signature out. And so it was very exciting. And then I felt honored that I got to be the one that delivered the soccer balls. I actually got to play soccer with some Maasai teenagers. And it was a fascinating experience that I can bring back to Westview and my students now.
Well, that's fantastic. And I'll tell you, the two of you are proof that St. Vrain has the best educators, I can now say, in the world. We're talking about Mount Kilimanjaro here. But really, you guys, I can't thank you enough for the work you're doing, the leadership that you're demonstrating, and then the impact that you're having on our children and our community. It's a really amazing thing, and I hope that our audience, and I know that our audience, will see that receiving an education at Westview and St. Vrain district-wide is a pretty special thing, because we have special people like both of you. And I want to thank you very much for being here today, but more importantly, just for the work that you do every day on behalf of our
Thank you for the opportunity.
students. Absolutely.
It was great that St. Vrain was able to provide this opportunity. Thank you.
No, it's our pleasure. And I want to thank you for joining us for another showing of education today. And having a chance to meet Michael and Jamie, two outstanding educators in St. Vrain, and learn a little bit about their trip to Mount Kilimanjaro. So thanks again, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.